Hello and welcome to a new show that we like to call SHU Review. I'm your host, Tommy Rinaldi, and today we have Cooper Tennant with us. Cooper, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing great. I can't wait to talk about movies, and we're going to actually start off with the summer movie review. We'll go into a fall preview, and then we'll talk about the new movie, The Joker, which came out today, October 4th, and we got to see it, and we want to tell you how we feel about that movie. Starting off, Cooper, what summer movies did you see, and what did you like?
Well, starting off, I saw Pokemon Detective Pikachu pretty early on, which wasn't a fantastic movie, but it had a lot of heart and it was fun and it was an enjoyable movie, I think. Rocket Man was another one of my favorites. I preferred Rocket Man over Bohemian Rhapsody just because I felt like Bohemian Rhapsody was a little too serious. Rocket Man, it still dealt with very important things, but it was a little more whimsical and more of like a musical, I guess. John Wick 3 was probably my favorite action movie that's come out this year. I think it's Keanu Reeves' best role in,
for sure,
ever, really.
He's so great as John Wick.
Oh, yeah. Perfect, yeah. Midsummer was also really good. Not a lot of horror movies are good at making you feel afraid of, like, sunshine and, like, daylight. So that was very impressive. The most unexpected movie, though, that I saw was The Art of Self-Defense.
Okay.
But my favorite was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay, great.
Just because I love Tarantino movies, as is. And not a lot happens in the movie. It's very dialogue heavy until like the last about 10 minutes. But I love, like, The Hateful Eight was one of his movies that wasn't as popular because of the dialogue and not a lot happens.
For sure.
But I love the way that he writes dialogue, I guess, just words,
He has a very particular sense of what he wants to write, and it's usually going by the book, and he has that feel for his comedy and everything like that, and those actors definitely give what they can to those roles.
Oh, for sure.
For John Wick, out of those three movies that they've done, which do you think is the best?
I think the first one still, just because it tells you just enough of the world that the movie builds. I don't think they've made a bad movie yet of the three John Wick movies, but I feel like the first one's just kind of weird enough without getting like comically weird, because I feel like the only problem that I had with the third one was that all the choreography was so good that by the end you were kind of tired of seeing like really good choreography.
Okay.
But that's such a small complaint because it was still a fantastic movie. So
John Wick was actually my missed movie of the summer that I really wish I got to see. I love the John Wick franchise just like you. I think the choreography is bar none the best of all the action movies we have right now. It's very smooth, it feels realistic, and I think they're doing a great job. Some of the movies I got to see this summer that I really enjoyed were Toy Story, Long Shot, Aladdin, Lion King, Endgame, and Spider-Man Far From Home. My dark horse, kind of like you had, was Long Shot. I think it was a very fun movie that you got to see Seth Rogen do his thing, and Charlize Theron is a couple that you don't really get to see, and they played it really well. You felt their connection, and you got to see Seth Rogen be this journalist who gets to help Charlize Theron, who's becoming president, run for her campaign, write her speeches and everything like that, and I thought it was a very interesting rom-com. And then my favorite of the year was Toy Story so far, and Toy Story's animation is absolutely beautiful. I think that Toy Story 4 was a great wrap-up to the original trilogy that was there. It was a story that needed to be told, in my opinion. The way that it went, you needed to know where Woody was going after Andy, and I think that was the perfect way to do it. What did you think of the box office? So for the box office this summer, top 5 movies were Avengers Endgame, The Lion King, Toy Story 4, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Aladdin. Of those 5, I should say, 4 of them are Disney. What do you think of that?
It's definitely interesting with seeing like big corporations kind of take over the box office, specifically just Disney. It definitely makes smaller films that might be better. Definitely, like, less of them will be made because money is the goal, I guess, for most production companies. I'm not super surprised by it because, like, The Lion King's a beloved, movie. Avengers Endgame was the last in, I think, 10 years of a build-up. Aladdin kind of surprised me because before, going into Aladdin, a lot of people were being negative about Will Smith as the genie taking over for Robin Williams. I personally really liked Aladdin.
Me too, for sure.
It surprised me a lot because I didn't think I was going to like it because I really like the original.
Those two movies, Aladdin and Lion King, they're based off of two of the better movies from the Disney Renaissance that came about. And some of them believe that those are the two best of those Disney movies. And given what those essentially perfect movies were with the animated features, these did a great job of recreating something new, but also giving the nostalgia that you needed, and I think that was really important. Again, you said that Will Smith got some flack for becoming Genie. It's so tough to replace the past Robin Williams and his genius with that role of Genie, and I think they did a really great job. Are there any movies coming up that you think could potentially knock one of these off?
I think if we're looking down the line for the rest of the year, I think Star Wars will probably do something. I don't know about number 1, but I'm going to guess maybe number 3 for the year. What was number 2?
Number 2 was Lion King.
Okay.
Domestically.
Yeah. I don't know, because this is the last of the Skywalker saga, they're calling it. So there's a lot built up behind that, and even The Last Jedi being very controversial as a film. I think Star Wars is probably the one that I would bet on to, dethrone one of the top 5.
For sure. Next, we're going to go on to the fall preview. There's a lot of movies that are about to come out and are coming out right now that we think that the audience should go see. So what are some movies that you are looking forward to this fall?
These in no particular order. The Irishman, which is the Scorsese movie coming up with Pacino, De Niro, and Pesci. I'm just excited to see Joe Pesci back in a Scorsese movie specifically. And it's very exciting seeing these 3 actors who are known for playing kind of mobsters, kind of a return to form for these 3 actors. And Scorsese, it's a Scorsese movie.
He's wonderful.
The Lighthouse is another movie that I'm excited about. A24 production company. They do great things most of the time. The director of it he directed The Witch, which is one of my favorite horror movies from the last couple years. And Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe is kind of an unlikely duo in my head.
But they're both fantastic.
Exactly. I think they're going to probably knock it out of the water. Jojo Rabbit is another one of my very anticipated movies. Taika Waititi stars and directs in this.
Yes.
And it follows a Hitler Youth in World War II as he discovers that his mother is hiding a Jewish girl in the attic. And it's just kind of him finding his stride in, as a Hitler Youth, and his imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler as well, which is really absurd.
Something new,
Yeah.
It's something that is original. Taika Waititi is really good with making original content, and he has his own flavor of humor that we saw in Thor Ragnarok and things of that nature, to where we get to see his goofiness come out and do something new with a maybe older premise with World War II and things of that nature. So it's very interesting.
It's a very, I guess you could call it controversial, but no one really likes, the Nazis.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm interested. I'm very interested.
For sure.
But my number 1 most anticipated movie is Knives Out,
Yes.
which is Rian Johnson's next movie after The Last Jedi. And I was one of the people who liked The Last Jedi.
Me too.
So I'm very excited for this. And it's kind of a whodunit, like a mystery. And the cast is the most interesting thing to me. I just wrote down some names that I found very interesting. Chris Evans, Daniel Craig, Jamie Lee Curtis, Lakeith Stanfield, Michael Shannon, Toni Collette, and Christopher Plummer are just among the star-studded cast.
They're stars, but they're also very talented, and we're going to get to see when that comes out. Some of my favorite movies coming up that I'm very much anticipating. First is Dr. Sleep. It is a sequel to The Shining, one of most people's favorite horror movies out of the 80s, a Stephen King novel. This is the follow-up following Danny, and really utilizing his powers and getting to see what other people are doing with The Shining. Another one I'm very much looking forward to is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. We get to see America's father, Tom Hanks, everybody's favorite person. No one's ever said anything bad about Tom Hanks, and now he's playing Fred Rogers, who made a lot of us grow up. We got to watch him, and he helped form the youth from the 80s and the 90s into what they are now. Another one I'm very much looking forward to is Ford vs. Ferrari. That goes over Shelby making a new Ford to try to compete against the Ferrari. Obviously a luxury car versus a American-made car. And that has Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Christian Bale every year is on that ballot for best actor or supporting actor. So I can't wait to see what's coming out of him. And maybe my most anticipated movie coming up this fall is a Korean film called Parasite. The director is Bong Joon-ho. He made the movie Okja that was on Netflix, which was very out of nowhere, very weird, things like that. And this has a similar feel compared to other Korean movies like an Old Boy or Handmaid and things like that, to where it has this humor to it, but there's also this underlying darkness that's there.
Almost like a terror, yeah.
Exactly, and it follows a family that has some questionable origins and these kids that try to help their family and things like that, and we get to see where their psyche gets to go and play off of that, and I think that's very interesting.
For sure.
Other than that, we had Joker come out October 4th, and we both were lucky enough to see that opening night. It actually made $33 million its first night, which is a massive gathering from Warner Brothers. What did you think of this movie? Non-spoilers.
Yeah, non-spoilers. Initially, I think I was very confused because I went into it expecting. I knew it was going to be a little, I guess, more artsy than like what a Marvel movie would be.
For sure.
But I still expected a comic book movie, maybe something like Watchmen. And I definitely didn't get what I expected, I guess.
Okay.
In a good way, though. I think if I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it an A+.
Okay, great.
Although I'm not sure if the movie would have been so powerful if not for Joaquin Phoenix, like, really becoming the Joker. Because there were several times watching the movie where I just completely forgot that he was an actor. Like, it sounds cheesy, but I was completely immersed in this world and completely believed that I was just watching a man live his life.
For sure, Joker was a character study, and Joaquin Phoenix really brought that role to life. He is a big enough star to where people know him by name and his background and everything like that, but like you said, he gets lost in the role and you don't notice whether it's him or the Joker. It really just feels like he is this entity that is unstoppable. What are some of the things that you really took out of the Joker?
I did really like the way it was written completely from his perspective. So there are some twists and turns that I won't talk about right now. But it helps you kind of feel for the character of the Joker, who is a villain, and sympathize with him as a person. More technically, the cinematography I thought was very good. Specifically the scene on the steps with him dancing down the steps. It's in like every trailer and on the poster.
Yeah.
The composer, I can't pronounce her last name. Her name's Hildur. She's Icelandic, but she also did she also composed Chernobyl, which
a great show on
is
HBO
fantastic
that recently
show.
came out.
And the soundtrack specifically, which really caught me off guard because you don't see a lot of like kind of bigger budget movies, like artsy movies, I guess, or even comic book movies, kind of use a soundtrack to invoke emotion. They normally use a composer. This one specific part, there's this part where they play White Room by Cream, and just with what's going on the screen and the music swelling at basically the climax of the film, just a really powerful moment for the movie.
Definitely. I believe now we're going to go into spoiler territory. So, what scenes really stood out to you from this Joker movie?
Definitely him. There's several times where he gets beaten, and this condition he has where he just laughs uncontrollably definitely reinforces the fact that he is mentally deranged, I guess, uncontrollably mentally deranged. Specifically the part on the train station where he shoots those three men that are assaulting him.
One of my favorite scenes from the movie is similar to that scene. It's when he runs away from killing those three men, and he goes into the bathroom, and he almost looks more calm than he was before, and he feels elated that he's essentially becoming this new person because he wasn't comfortable with who he was before. He's had a tough life, and this is the most happy he's ever felt. He goes through therapy and things of that nature, and he talks about how he's never been happy a day in his life. And you start to see the inklings of him becoming happy through these insane crimes and things like that, and I think that's really interesting. This movie has a very 70s feel to it. It feels like that gritty New York, but now in Gotham. And you get to see that there's filth all around, and it's really this class structure difference between the higher-ups, like a Thomas Wayne, who is Bruce Wayne's father at the time, and you get to see the juxtaposition between these higher-ups and the common people, and how the higher-ups really bring down the common people to, if you have that one bad day, like the Joker says, it's tough to recover from that, and you see the monster that comes out of it.
For sure.
What do you think of that?
I think it's definitely apparent, like what you were saying, that the opening of the movie, he talks about how his mother always told him to just put on a happy face and smile and laugh through the pain, I guess. And you don't really see him become like truly happy until he evolves into the Joker. Like he takes pleasure. There's a scene where he kills somebody with a pair of scissors, and he just makes jokes after that. And originally, I thought that the jokes in the movie were a little off-putting, not in like a off-putting in a way where like they didn't fit into the movie.
Okay.
And then I remembered that this is a comic book character, the Joker, who I'm familiar with, who would do something like that, and that kind of solidified the how mentally deranged, I guess, the character of the Joker really is, and it sold it for me even more.
Speaking of that laugh, Joaquin Phoenix got to research people with a laughing condition where they can't control their laugh and everything like that, and that's how he built the laugh that we now hear. What did you think of his laugh? Is it compared to any of the other Jokers? What do you think he did with that character choice?
I think it's definitely a lot. I personally liked the way that they explained his laugh, because every Joker has a trademark laugh. I think personally that while Heath Ledger, I still think might have the best acting as the Joker, I think that Joaquin Phoenix is the most accurate portrayal. Not as someone who wants to, I guess, rule, but as someone who just, I guess, wants total anarchy in a way. But the laugh was, I think, my favorite Joker laugh so far.
Very comparable to Mark Hamill's Joker, who was Joker during the animated series that people grew up in the 90s with, and a lot of people regard Mark Hamill's Joker as a complete Joker, and now we get to see that with Joaquin Phoenix. Are there any instances that really surprised you in this movie?
The amount of gore that they showed, I think, surprised me, because I knew it was rated R. I expected the R rating just to be for language, but like I said, there's a scene where he kills someone with a pair of scissors.
And it's brutal. It's definitely
brutal. This is spoilers. He shoots Robert De Niro in the head.
Yes.
And then he shoots him again several times. That definitely caught me off guard. It not uncharacteristic of the Joker, because he'll do whatever, I guess, but it definitely caught me off guard.
For sure. I think for me, seeing him deal with his own mind and things like that, he writes down notes. He's trying to become a stand-up comedian, and within those notes is how he feels, but also his material that he's trying to produce and everything like that. But you really get into the psyche, and I think that brings it to something of a Mindhunter from Netflix, to where you get into the psyche, you get to learn how someone so insane and not normal, essentially, gets to get to the point of where they are of, I'm killing people and things of that nature. And it's also, to that period, Mindhunter and everything, serial killers were during that time of the 70s where things were a little bit different, and we get to see that now with this Joker. What are some other things within the Joker that maybe not did so well with you?
I think one thing that kind of was off-putting, like in a bad way, There were some parts where, because it's set in it's a period piece, I guess you could say.
Yes.
And there were some times where, looking at the frame or the scene, you couldn't tell that it was set in that time. Like, it could have just been set in this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe, like, the outdoor production design was great because you could tell with all the cars and everything. But the interior, I think, could have been done a little bit better. But that's such a tiny complaint because the movie was so good overall, and I can easily look past that.
For me, I think that's something that really gave character to the city of Gotham, which is really a big part of past Batman movies and the DC universe in general. Gotham is its own character, and you get to see the filth, and there's trash around him in the beginning of the movie, trying to show that lower class system and things of that nature. I think the use of being outside and the contrast in lighting, there's blue lights, there's orange lights to kind of show his transition from the blue light of being comfortable in this previous body and everything like that, but then going crazy and getting to that orange light and becoming the Joker and feeling whole as himself and becoming the character that we know. And I think that was something really interesting. Didn't work for you, but worked a little bit more for me, and that's perfectly fine. Do you have anything else that you want to say about the Joker before we wrap up?
It surprised me, like, genuinely surprised me. I knew I would probably enjoy it, but definitely surprising. It says a lot. I guess some of the social issues that it brings up are very interesting. Some people taking it very seriously in real life, but I think it's definitely an interesting character study.
Oh, for sure. And I think a lot of people might be turned off by this movie, as we've seen from some critic reviews. It is a dark movie. It is a tough movie to watch, but it is something that I feel does justice to the character, and we'll see what we get to do. That is it for this episode of SHU Review Movie Edition. For Cooper Tennant, I'm Tom Rinaldi, and thank you for watching.